Imagine a land sculpted by volcanoes, a chain of islands rising from the vast Pacific. This is Japan, a nation shaped by its unique geography and history. For centuries, the sea served as both a barrier and a bridge. It protected Japan from outside invasion, allowing its culture to flourish in isolation. Yet, the sea also provided a path for trade and cultural exchange with the mainland Asian continent. This delicate balance between isolation and interaction played a crucial role in shaping Japan's identity. From its earliest days, Japan developed a deep connection with nature, evident in its art, poetry, and religious beliefs. Shintoism, the indigenous religion of Japan, revered natural forces and spirits, imbuing the land with a sacred aura. Buddhism, arriving from China and Korea, added another layer of spiritual depth to Japanese society. These influences intertwined, creating a rich tapestry of beliefs and practices that permeated every aspect of Japanese life. The Japanese people, fiercely independent and proud of their heritage, developed a sophisticated culture marked by intricate rituals, refined aesthetics, and a deep respect for tradition. They excelled in craftsmanship, producing exquisite ceramics, lacquerware, and textiles that showcased their artistic skills. Japanese literature flourished, with classic works like The Tale of Genji offering insights into the courtly life and refined sensibilities of the Heian period. This period of relative peace and cultural blossoming eventually gave way to an era of political turmoil and social upheaval. As powerful clans vied for dominance, Japan descended into a period of civil war known as the Sengoku period, or the Age of Warring States. This turbulent chapter in Japanese history would set the stage for a momentous encounter, one that would forever alter the course of the nation's destiny. It was during this time of internal strife that Japan, largely unknown to the Western world, would have its first encounter with Europeans, an encounter that would spark curiosity, conflict, and ultimately, profound change. By the 16th century, Japan was a nation in flux. The old order had crumbled, giving rise to the chaotic Sengoku period. Powerful daimyo clashed for supremacy, each aspiring to unite the fractured nation. The incessant warfare profoundly impacted Japanese society. Technological innovations in weapons and tactics emerged. Coastal cities saw a surge in trade and merchants became influential. The period also significantly impacted the arts, blending warrior values and merchant aesthetics. The arrival of Europeans marked the beginning of a new chapter in Japanese history. European knowledge of Japan prior to the 16th century was, at best, fragmentary and steeped in myth. Tales filtered back through travelers along the Silk Road whispered rumors of a land of gold and giants, a place called Cipango in hushed tones. Marco Polo, the Venetian explorer, had never set foot on Japanese soil, yet his accounts of a wealthy and sophisticated civilization fueled European imaginations. Driven by a potent mixture of curiosity, ambition, and religious zeal, European explorers embarked on daring voyages into the unknown. The Portuguese, at the forefront of maritime exploration, had established a trading post in Malacca, a strategic choke point in Southeast Asia. It was there in 1543 that fate intervened. A Chinese pirate junk, blown off course by a storm, limped into port with an unexpected passenger, a Portuguese merchant named Fernão Mendes Pinto. Among the survivors, 3 Japanese men swept aboard during a skirmish at sea found themselves stranded thousands of miles from home. Their presence ignited a firestorm of excitement among the Portuguese, offering the first real glimpse into the mysterious land of the rising sun. Intrigued by tales of Japan's wealth and eager to expand their trading empire, the Portuguese set their sights on reaching this newfound land. The stage was set for a momentous encounter, a clash of cultures that would leave an indelible mark on both East and West. The year was 1543, marking the first documented arrival of Europeans on Japanese soil. A Chinese junk commandeered by Portuguese traders appeared off Tanegashima. It stirred both awe and apprehension among the islanders. The sun cast long shadows across the tranquil waters. Waves crashed, shattered by the unfamiliar silhouette. A ship unlike any seen before, adorned with strange carvings. Islanders gaped in wonder. Word spread through bamboo groves and rice paddies. Fishermen and farmers were drawn to the shore. The arrival was an omen, a sign of things to come. Islanders could make out figures on deck, men with weathered faces and colorful clothing. Fear mingled with fascination as they prepared to disembark. Japan, poised on the cusp of change, hung in the balance. The Portuguese who stepped ashore that day were not explorers like Magellan or Columbus. They were traders, adventurers, and mercenaries, driven by profit and empire. At their head stood Fernão Mendes Pinto, a man of dubious reputation but undeniable charisma. Pinto was a captivating storyteller, prone to embellishing his adventures. The Japanese regarded these newcomers with suspicion and curiosity. They traded with Chinese and Korean merchants, familiar with maritime commerce. The Portuguese recognized the potential for trade, bearing silks, spices, and glassware. A tentative exchange began, laying the foundation for a complex relationship. The most sought-after commodity the Portuguese brought to Tanegashima wasn't silk, spices, or glassware, but firearms. The matchlock arquebus made its dramatic debut, forever altering Japanese warfare. Initially dismissive, the samurai soon recognized its power. The daimyo saw its potential to shift power. The Portuguese traded firearms, fueling conflict for decades. Alongside firearms came Christianity, challenging Japanese beliefs. This encounter began a dance of diplomacy, trade, and conflict shaping Japan's destiny. The Portuguese, ever opportunistic, recognized the potential of Japan. It was a land rich in resources, strategically located and ripe for trade. They established a trading post in the bustling port city of Nagasaki. Nagasaki became a crossroads of cultures. Portuguese traders mingled with Japanese merchants, samurai, and curious onlookers. The trading post became a conduit for the exchange of ideas as well as goods. Yet this burgeoning cultural exchange was not without its tensions. The arrival of the Black Ships foreshadowed a turbulent future for Japan. The arrival of the Portuguese Black Ships became a yearly spectacle, a mix of anticipation and anxiety. These massive vessels, laden with treasures, sailed into Nagasaki. Their towering masts and thunderous cannons sent ripples of excitement and apprehension. The holds were treasure troves of exotic goods, fine silks from China, spices from the East Indies, and Venetian glassware. However, the Black Ships also brought reminders of Western power. The Portuguese flexed their military muscle with armed escorts and soldiers. The daimyo recognized the potential of these powerful weapons. The Portuguese sold their weapons, fueling conflict in Japan. While Portuguese traders brought goods and guns, Franciscan missionaries arrived with a different objective: to spread Christianity. Led by the zealous Jesuit priest Francis Xavier, they disembarked onto Japanese soil, crucifixes held high. Their arrival was met with curiosity and bewilderment by the Japanese, who were accustomed to Buddhism and Shintoism. Despite cultural and linguistic barriers, Francis Xavier embraced the challenge with fervor. He immersed himself in Japanese culture, learned the language, and adapted his teachings. His efforts bore fruit, and Christianity began to find converts among the Japanese. Daimyo, enticed by the prospect of an alliance with the Portuguese, encouraged the spread of the new religion. However, the rise of Christianity in Japan was not without its challenges. The arrival of the Portuguese in Japan wasn't just a meeting of merchants and missionaries, it was a sartorial spectacle. The Japanese, with their refined aesthetics, were captivated by the clothing of these foreign visitors. The Portuguese marveled at the elegance and artistry of Japanese attire. The kimono, a symbol of Japanese identity, fascinated the Portuguese. The Portuguese brought with them fashions that spoke of a very different world. Doublets, hose, ruffled collars, and feathered caps contrasted with the kimono. Japanese tailors began experimenting with European fabrics and techniques. The result was a subtle fusion of styles, enriching both cultures. Music, the universal language, transcended the barriers of language and culture. Traditional Japanese music, with its delicate melodies and evocative silences, was unlike anything the Portuguese had ever encountered. The haunting sound of the shakuhachi and the koto captivated the Portuguese. The Portuguese brought with them the vibrant and passionate sounds of their homeland. Fado, with its melancholic melodies, resonated with the Japanese. European musical instruments like the lute and viola da gamba captivated the Japanese court. Japanese musicians incorporated these new sounds, creating a unique hybrid style. Portuguese sailors' lively tunes created a fusion of cultures on the dance floor. While the exchange of goods and fashions was visible, the encounter between Japan and Europe ran deeper. Japanese scholars devoured the maps, books, and scientific instruments brought by the Portuguese. The realization of vast continents sparked a thirst for knowledge. The introduction of Christianity had a profound impact on Japanese religious thought. The concept of a single, all-powerful God forced the Japanese to re-examine their beliefs. New words, borrowed from Portuguese, entered the Japanese lexicon. This cultural exchange enriched both societies. It broadened horizons and demonstrated that disparate cultures could find common ground. The Portuguese arrival in Japan brought a technological innovation that revolutionized warfare: the gun. The matchlock arquebus, a firearm that used a burning wick to ignite gunpowder, was a game-changer. The samurai initially viewed the arquebus with disdain, but its effectiveness soon silenced doubts. The daimyo quickly recognized the potential of this new weapon. The demand for firearms soared, and the Portuguese supplied them. Japanese blacksmiths learned to copy and improve upon European designs. This rapid militarization transformed Japanese warfare. The age of chivalry gave way to a new era of industrialized warfare. The arrival of Christianity ignited a spiritual revolution in Japan. The missionaries preached a message that was both alluring and unsettling. The concept of a single, all-powerful God resonated with some. Daimyo saw in Christianity a potential tool to consolidate their power. Conversions spread throughout Japan, and churches rose in cities and villages. Buddhist monks denounced Christianity as a dangerous heresy. The shogun viewed this religious turmoil with growing concern. The stage was set for a clash between old and new, a battle for the soul of Japan. The arrival of the Portuguese in Japan unleashed forces transforming the nation. The influx of firearms was changing the nature of warfare. The spread of Christianity was sowing division. The shogun faced a dilemma: embrace or resist foreign influences. Japan would find its own path, blending elements of East and West. The encounter with the Portuguese had opened a Pandora's box of possibilities. Japan was now inextricably linked to the wider world. The consequences of that connection would continue to unfold for generations. The arrival of the Portuguese intensified the struggle for power among the daimyo. Oda Nobunaga, a ruthless strategist, made significant strides toward unifying the nation. He equipped his armies with the arquebus and employed innovative tactics. Nobunaga embraced new ideas and technologies. Toyotomi Hideyoshi, Nobunaga's loyal general, continued the campaign of unification. Hideyoshi dreamed of conquering China and Korea. Tokugawa Ieyasu, a master politician, established the Tokugawa shogunate. The Sengoku period drew to a close, ushering in an era of peace and stability. The Tokugawa shogunate faced a critical decision: how to ensure peace and stability. Their answer was a policy of sakoku, closed country. The shogunate enacted restrictive measures to prevent foreign influence. Japanese citizens were forbidden from traveling abroad. Foreign merchants were expelled, except for a small contingent in Nagasaki. The import of firearms was banned, and Christianity was suppressed. The shogunate sought to restore Japan to a mythical past. The challenge was to benefit from the outside world without succumbing to its dangers. Paradoxically, the period of sakoku, intended to isolate Japan, witnessed a remarkable flourishing of Japanese culture. The arts and sciences thrived under the shogunate's patronage. Ukiyo-e, the art of woodblock printing, reached its zenith. Artists like Hokusai captured the beauty of the natural world. Kabuki theater captivated audiences with its elaborate performances. Bunraku emerged as a sophisticated art form. The sciences advanced significantly. Isolation ironically fostered intense cultural creativity. The encounter between Japan and Europe in the 16th century, often romanticized or vilified, was, in truth, a complex and nuanced affair. It was a clash of civilizations, a meeting of minds and cultures separated by vast geographical and philosophical divides. The Portuguese, arriving on Japanese shores with their blend of mercantile ambition, religious zeal, and technological prowess, unwittingly set in motion a chain of events that would irrevocably alter the course of Japanese history. The initial curiosity and wonder that greeted the arrival of these strange, bearded foreigners soon gave way to a more pragmatic assessment of the opportunities and challenges they presented. The Japanese, ever adaptable and eager to learn, embraced the new technologies, particularly firearms, that promised to give them an edge in their own internal power struggles. The influx of European goods, from clocks and spectacles to silks and spices, stimulated Japanese markets and fueled a growing appetite for exotic luxuries. Yet, this embrace of foreign goods and ideas was not without its consequences. The introduction of Christianity, while initially welcomed by some, soon sparked religious conflicts that threatened to tear the nation apart. The shogunate, determined to consolidate its power and ensure the stability of the newly unified nation, responded with increasing suspicion and hostility towards foreign influences. The decision to close Japan's doors to the outside world, to embark on a policy of sakoku, was a direct consequence of this tumultuous encounter. It was a defensive measure, an attempt to regain control over a rapidly changing world. Yet, even in isolation, the legacy of Japan's encounter with Europe lingered. The echoes of this early encounter between Japan and Europe reverberate even today. The technologies and ideas introduced by the Portuguese, from firearms to printing presses, had a lasting impact on Japanese society. The Japanese language still bears the imprint of this encounter, with words like pan, bread, and tempura, a fried dish of Portuguese origin, firmly embedded in the Japanese lexicon. The legacy of sakoku, too, can still be felt in Japan's unique cultural identity. The centuries of relative isolation, while not completely severing Japan's ties to the outside world, allowed Japanese culture to develop along its own distinct path, fostering a deep sense of tradition and national identity. Even as Japan embraced modernization in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, it did so on its own terms, selectively adopting Western technologies and ideas, while preserving its own cultural core. The story of Japan's encounter with Europe is a reminder that globalization is not a recent phenomenon. For centuries, cultures have been colliding, influencing and transforming one another. The challenge, as Japan's experience demonstrates, is to manage this encounter in a way that preserves cultural identity while embracing the benefits of interconnectedness. The lessons of this early encounter are particularly relevant in our own age of globalization, where the pace of technological change and cultural exchange has accelerated exponentially. Japan's story offers both a cautionary tale and a source of inspiration, reminding us that the encounter between different cultures can be both enriching and disruptive, and that the choices made in response to this encounter can have profound and lasting consequences. The legacy of Japan's first encounter with Europe is not merely confined to history books or museum exhibits. It lives on in the vibrant tapestry of Japanese culture, a testament to the nation's ability to absorb, adapt, and transcend foreign influences. The Japanese aesthetic, with its emphasis on minimalism and natural beauty, bears traces of its encounter with Western aesthetics. The Japanese spirit of innovation, its relentless pursuit of technological excellence, can also be traced back to this early encounter. The arrival of European firearms sparked a technological revolution in Japan, laying the groundwork for the nation's rise as a technological powerhouse. The encounter between Japan and Europe in the 16th century was a pivotal moment in world history. The lessons learned and the legacies forged continue to shape our world today. The story of Japan's encounter with Europe is a mirror reflecting the complexities of cultural exchange and the enduring power of human resilience.